Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast channel. My name is Mina. Welcome back. This is episode, I want to say 147, but I might be wrong. I am just going to quickly check. Like I said, my name is Mina. I am the host of this podcast. Yes, 147, I was right. Sorry, I just ran downstairs to grab my jumper because I forgot to grab it earlier. But yeah, so welcome. You can find me online as Knitting Expat on Instagram, as Mina Phillip on Ravelry. We have a podcast group for this podcast, Knitting Expat Podcast, on Ravelry in the groups tab. And you can find my designs. I design knitwear patterns, and you can find those on Ravelry as Knitting Expat Designs. And what else? I have an Etsy shop which is called Mina Makes. It's I've been selling some handspun and rolags and spinning kits. I will be having some more spinning kits soon, hopefully. I have a new order of spindles on the way and I'm starting to prep the fibres for those kits. So hopefully sometime soon I will have some more spinning kits. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be in time for Christmas, but it is just what it is. Life got in the way. I had planned on having a Christmas update, sort of like mid-November, but it just didn't work out that way. Life just got really busy and other things had to take priority. I do have some new designs that I've just released recently that I wanted to talk to you guys about. First up is the Snowdrift Cowlette. This is like a one skein wonder for a DK weight yarn. So this is what it looks like on. This was the last pattern as part of the Gift Knits collection, or the Snowy Knits collection is what I called it. And it's just a really fun DK weight pattern. It's garter at the beginning, then you join in the round, and then you've got this knit pearl texture that creates this fun sort of like chevron effect. And I just thought it reminded me of like the ripples you see in snow or sand when like the wind's blown over it, so like a snowdrift, hence the name Snowdrift Cowl. Cowlette. I call this a cowlette because it's kind of like a cross between a cowl and a shawl. So it has the shaping of a shawl at the front, but it's joined at the back, so it's a cowl as well. So you don't have to worry about any ends or it falling off your neck. And it's just a really nice sort of snug around the neck sort of fit, so it's not like loose and gapey. So, you know, it's going to keep your neck nice and warm. And yeah, and it covers a nice area. This sort of style of cowl or cowlette is great for like undercoats and stuff because it will keep this whole area nice and warm. And like I said, this is knit out of a single skein of DK weight. I used Yarn Cafe Creations in the Roasted Pumpkin colourway on her Merino DK. You can knit this out of fingering weight held double. You can knit this out of just fingering weight and increase for more stitches, and then you can keep going for longer until you run out of yarn. The pattern is written in such a way that you can just keep going. You could also knit it with DK held with mohair or with a Suri alpaca, just to add a bit of like a fuzzy halo to it. There's all sorts of options with what you can do with this pattern, and I think it's a great gift knit or just a selfish knit for yourself as well for this holiday season. And Hugo's just jumped on the table and come and say hello. Hi buddy. The other pattern that I have released recently, like just a couple of days ago, is my Eurhythmic Cowl pattern. And you may have seen the first version of this that I knit up whilst I was... Oh! So Hugo just knocked the camera over. He's like, give me all of your undivided attention. Hey buddy, that's not nice. You might have seen the first version of this cowl that I knit whilst I was at Rhinebeck in the US. It is knit entirely out of my own handspun. I had little 40-gram mini skeins of each of these colours, and I designed this cowl with them. And then again, whilst I was in the US for that Rhinebeck weekend, I picked up a mini skein set from Lamstrings Yarns and the lovely Shana, and I knit up a fingering weight version using her mini skeins, fingering weight mini skeins. And so this pattern is written as a recipe. So you can use whatever weight of yarn you'd like, and it will tell you, you know, how to weigh your yarn to figure out when you need to make your color changes. So I did a fairly few number of stitches, like less stitches on this than I did on this one. But obviously this weight was more of a DK worsted weight compared to this fingering weight. So just to show the differences that you can get out of the pattern depending on how many stitches you cast on and what weight of yarn you use. I think this would be a great sort of like mini skein project. I mean, obviously it's a mini skein project, but it'd be a great advent project for your advent minis. You just cast on more stitches, so you'd have a wider cowl and your color changes would happen more rapidly. Or it'd be, again, great for handspun because it's a way as you go kind of option. And yeah, you can get this on Ravelry right now as well. It's the Eurhythmic Cowl. I will have links to this and the Snowdrift Cowlette below this video, which, by the way, show notes for this podcast are below the video on YouTube in the description box. And all of my patterns, all of my new releases are available with a pay what works pricing model. So they are priced at a higher level, which more accurately reflects the time and effort that goes into creating these patterns. However, there are 3 coupon codes given for 20, 40 and 60% off that full like higher price, to provide different pricing options and levels depending on your financial situation and what you are comfortable with paying. Obviously, if you can pay the full price, that would be amazing, but I understand that not everyone is in that position, and I feel like knitting in and of itself is already a fairly expensive hobby once you really get into it. And so I just want to be conscious of trying to be as inclusive as I can for people of all sort of like financial backgrounds. I have a couple of new patterns that will probably be coming out between now and the end of the year. I don't have a new sock pattern for Christmas this year. I have done for the last couple of years, and I plan to have one this year, but it just didn't work out. And also I've been asked if I was doing a sock club for next year. Not yet. I don't plan on doing one next year at the moment. I don't have anything in the works. I haven't even started designing one. I have a few other things I would like to try and focus on next year, so I'm not entirely sure if I will be doing another sock club or not. And if I do, it'll probably start later in the year because, like I said, I haven't even started planning it yet. I might do a different kind of club next year rather than socks. I might do like a colourwork club or a something else like that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I'm working on a few collaborations and some other ideas that I want to play around with, and I'm really excited about. So we'll see what next year holds. And I think that's it for like early announcements. I guess the only other thing to announce is that I'm going to be teaching at Vogue Knitting Live again in January. I know I've already mentioned this, but I thought I'd mention it once more. Most of my classes have sold out, other than the last class on the Sunday, which is like Elevate Your Knitting or Level Up Your Knitting, and we'll be going over all the techniques and things that are included in the Changes shawl pattern, and working on like a mini version of the shawl just to like learn the different techniques, because there are lots of techniques that I feel like if you are not a more experienced knitter, or I guess if you haven't been knitting for a very long time, you might not have come across some of these techniques, and this shawl incorporates a lot of new ones all together, so it's a really good one to you know, get a lot of practice with some new skills and really level up your knitting. Anyway, so that class still has some availability, but I think all the other ones have sold out for now. I have spoken to them about some of the classes being able to accommodate more people if they could figure out a classroom that was big enough. So I'm still waiting to hear back on whether or not they are able to extend the class sizes for any of them. But for now, like I said, most of them are sold out. But I am hopefully going to be teaching at some other events next year as well, so I'll be sure to keep you up to date on that. Oh, I'm also teaching at Woolen. That has been announced, and I can tell you guys about that. I'll be teaching at Woolen next summer. I think it's in June. Or is it July? I think it's July actually. I'm so confused. I'm getting myself all muddled up, but one of those next summer, and I'm going to be teaching 2 classes. One is the Pinwheel Scrap Blanket, and the other one is Marling Yarns Made Easy. And then so those are the 2 that I can announce right now. There are a few others that I am maybe not doing, so once those are firmed up I can tell you about those. And yeah, I think we're going to jump right into it. I've been chatting for a while now. I'm going to remove Hugo from the situation because you're going to get in the way, aren't you, buddy? I know you want all the attention, but you always sleep all day unless I'm podcasting, in which case he pops up. So we will start out with my first finished object. So we're going to go finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions, and then general chitter chatter at the end. So, first finished object. I finished my spin and make along project, which is basically, this project is what actually inspired the whole spin and make along to begin with. I'd started with spinning one skein, and then I was gifted some fibre as part of a fibre share package, and I thought, oh, this goes really well with this skein that I've already spun. It'd be amazing to put them together in like a sweater. So I purchased 2 more braids of fibre to go with the other 2 that I had, and spun up a whole sweater quantity as part of the spin and make along, which was, like I said, why I was all inspired to do it. And then it got to about a week before the end of the spin and make along, and I was like, I haven't knit this sweater. I'd wound up the skeins, I was ready to go. I was just sort of umming and ahhing about what pattern to knit. I was originally going to knit a Not So Little Nugget sweater using this yarn, and so I knit up a swatch with all of the yarns, not necessarily in the order I was going to knit them in, but all knit up anyway. And for one thing, obviously there's quite defined colours, and you can really see the changes, which is fine. I was going to go for like a more colour blocked sort of effect anyway, so that wasn't a problem. But I'm not sure if you can tell, but there is a very defined difference in the gauge at this top end compared to the bottom. It's maybe not so clear to see on camera, but in person you can see that the top is a lot narrower than the bottom. That's just because I was still a fairly new spinner at the time. I'm a lot more experienced now. I'm still relatively new, I've only been spinning a year, but a lot less experience at the time of spinning this than I am now. And so some of the skeins turned out finer than the others, and that wasn't super consistent between the skeins, which made me feel like it wasn't going to be the best for a fingering weight gauge item, especially because some of the yarns were more of a DK or worsted weight gauge. So yeah, so I left it for a while, and which is why I hadn't cast it on, because I wasn't completely happy with that idea. And then a couple of days before I went away for the Lay Family Yarn Retreat, which is something that was a couple weekends ago now, I quickly whipped up another swatch, and this time I did a mild swatch, M-A-R-L, mild swatch. I find it so hard to say that word, which is going to be interesting because I'm teaching a class on it. I did a mild swatch, holding the yarns double throughout and just changing one strand at a time, and I really liked the effect. It was a lot more subtle, a lot more like smooth, even though obviously the bottom is more blue and the top's more green. It's a lot more of a subtle transition than this, and it gave a much more even gauge overall by holding the yarn double. So I upped my needle size and I held my yarn double, and because I was then going to have a much reduced amount of overall yardage to use, I decided to knit a different pattern. And obviously, because the Not So Little Nugget is written for fingering weight, and I was going to have more of a DK worsted weight gauge, or maybe even slightly thicker, more like an Aran, I ended up going with my Yorkville pattern, which is written for DK, but based on my swatch I did a few little quick calculations and figured out that if I knit the smallest size in the pattern, I would get my size finished garment. And that's something I teach actually in my pattern hacking class. I actually teach how to do that, how to take your swatch that's at a completely different gauge from the pattern and to figure out which size to knit. So I lucked out that the smaller size was going to be perfect for what I wanted, so I cast it on and I knit the body of this for the smaller size. I didn't do the high-low hem at the back, not sure how well you can see. I did end the body about the same length at the front as I did for my original Yorkville sweater. I don't have the original with me. I left it with the ladies of Green Mountain Spinnery as a shop sample for them for now, because I used their yarn to knit the original, so I don't have the original to like compare it against, but in terms of where it hits, it's about the same. I just didn't do the high-low hem at the back because I knew I wasn't going to have enough yarn. And for the sleeves, again, I knew I wouldn't have enough for full-length sleeves. I probably would have had enough for elbow length, but that's a really awkward length for sleeves to hit on me. It's not very flattering at all, so I just went with shorter, slightly longer than cap sleeves. I was originally just going to do cap sleeves, but I thought I'd go a little bit longer than that. And again, because I was going to do short sleeves, this first sort of part of the set-in sleeve is all done in garter short rows. I thought because the sleeve was going to be short, doing it all in garter was going to look a bit bulky and clunky, and again not super flattering. So I omitted all the patterning completely on the sleeves and just did short sleeves in stockinette, ending with a bit of ribbing, same on both sides. And I absolutely love how this has turned out. It is just perfect, and again got that really subtle sort of blending of colors from one to the other. I mean, you still have like stripes of color throughout, but that's just the way the hand spun was spun up in the first place. I just really love how it looks, and I'm so happy with it. And yeah, it took me less than a week to knit it, so it was a super quick knit as well, which is amazing. So that's the first finished object I have to talk to you guys about. The second finished object I have is this hat that I knit out of Leading Med Fibre Arts, and I'm trying to remember the colorway name now. I don't have the tag here with me. It was copper, I want to say copper penny, but that might be wrong. If I remember, I will put the right colorway name on the screen, but this is for a charity collaboration, so I believe this pattern will be free. I knit this hat in an adult size because even though the pattern is meant to be for children, I'm doing an adult size, I'm going to include an adult size as well. It's a really cozy warm hat knit out of a DK weight with a folded up, like a cuffed brim. So you can wear it folded up and it's more of a beanie, or you can have it not folded up and wear it more like a slouchy hat. It looks a bit weird on me right now because I've got my hair up in a bun, and so I look really weird, and I don't wear my hats like this at all. I can't wear them like this. I cover my forehead. I'm like, my hat is supposed to keep my head warm. What's the point in having half of my head sticking out the back, out the front rather? So yeah. And it's a really simple rib pattern. It looks a lot more complicated than it is. There's no cabling involved at all. It's just knit pearls, and which makes it really forgiving for sizing on different size heads. Like this one, it will stretch a lot. This will fit most adult heads. So yeah, it's a very forgiving hat pattern in that regards, and I'm really happy with it. So I still need to get this written up and tech edited and graded for different sizes, but yeah, this should be coming in January, I believe, but I will let you know more about that once it is published, and I will be more informed about the charity and the work they're doing. And like, I had read all the information beforehand, but it's been a while since I read it, and I, for some reason, didn't prepare properly for this today. I just sort of sat down and decided to podcast, and yeah, here we are. So my camera light is flashing, battery is flashing, so I need to go and get a new battery for my camera, and I will be back with the rest of this podcast. So my next finished object, a bit of a beast, a bit hard to show it off properly on camera like this, but it is a sort of Shrug Cardigan type thing. It's knit flat, and then you seam a little bit under the arms to create your armhole, and then you can, it's an optional extra thing that you can do, is you can pick up around the armhole and knit a small sort of cuff bit on the sleeve, and this helps just like hold it in place, and I feel like makes it just a little bit more of a practical thing to wear, but you don't have to add that if you don't want to. I used a bulky weight yarn from Lavender Lune Yarn Co, and it is beautiful, and the colorway is her Seance Colourway. That's what it looks like from the back, and it is stunning. I love it so much, and I did alternate skeins throughout, and you got garter at the edges and at the bottom and top, and when you wear it, it sort of folds over and becomes like a nice little shawl collar type thing. It doesn't have a closure anywhere on it, because the idea is you can wear it either way up or down, but what you can do is add your own closure, like a clasp or a brooch, shawl pin, whatever you'd like. I did actually film a clip earlier showing it on me, so I will insert that clip here for you guys so you can see what it looks like on. So this is how the shrug looks on. I love it. It is nice and long in the back. It is fairly adjustable. It's fairly wide. This is going to be like one of those ones that only has like 3 or 4 sizes, but fits a wide variety of size ranges, because the point is it's essentially just a warm hug that you wear. It doesn't have any closures on it or whatever, but you could easily use like a shawl pin or a brooch or something to keep it closed at the front. I've got one of those dual leather like detachable clasp thingies. I've got on another cardigan at the moment, but I'm going to transfer it to this one and use that as the closure to keep this bit closed. The edge sort of folds over nicely around the collar, and I added these little cuffs, which are optional. You don't have to add the cuff, you can just leave it open. I quite like the cuff because it helps sort of like control where the sleeve goes. It doesn't flap around too much. And yeah, I really like this, how this turned out, and this is exactly what I wanted. I thought what I wanted was just like a little cozy blanket cardigan, mainly for around the house, to be quite honest, because mainly for around the house, just because sometimes I get quite cold, but sometimes you want your arms free, like if you're cooking, or for me, if I'm spinning on a drop spindle, I tend to wrap the fibre around my arm, so it's more convenient not to have anything on my arm, because otherwise the fibre sticks to whatever sweater I'm wearing. It's just easy, it's comfortable, it's not in the way, and yeah, and it keeps my front open, so if I am cooking and stuff, I'm less likely to get food on it because it will splatter on me, not my jumper. And yeah, and I can either pull it up and have it up completely out of the way, or I can pull it fairly down and have my arms fairly covered. It's fairly flexible in that regard. I really love it. Like I've been going on about, it was a super quick knit out of bulky weight yarn from Lavender Lune Yarn Company in her Seance Colourway. I just use a really fun sort of stitch pattern on it, and there's no like right way or wrong way to wear this. You can wear it either way, it's basically the same. And yeah, other than a small bit of seaming under the arms, there is no real finishing work. There's a bit of seaming, and then you can pick up and you knit these two little cuffs, and then you're done. Really quick knit, genuinely not that long at all. So like I said in that clip, I will be writing this pattern up and putting a call out for testers, and I was thinking about it earlier, and I'm like, this pattern actually would be ideal to be written up as a recipe as well. So I will probably include some information on how you can do a gauge swatch, and based on your gauge swatch, figure out how many stitches to cast on any size needle with any type of yarn, and figure out how much to knit to get the size that you want. And yeah, the only thing I'll have to do is figure out yardages for different gauges as well to include with that, which I'm sure is possible. I just have to think a bit more about that and how I'm going to do it. But anyway, really love this, and super squishy. I used almost 4 skeins, a little bit less than 4 skeins. This is what's left from that last skein of the bulky weight yarn. So this bulky yarn comes in 250 gram skeins, so I used almost 4 skeins. Like I said, this is probably around 60-70 grams left, so almost 1,000 skeins, about probably around 900 plus grams of yarn went into this. It's quite hefty, but it's super warm and snuggly, and it's just like the perfect thing to throw on when you're around the house. You want your arms free, like you don't want your arms covered with the sweater because you're cooking or you're doing something else and you just don't want the sweater to get in the way, but also it's just warm. It feels like a warm hug when you wear it, and I love it so much. I don't have a name for it yet, so any name ideas, please let me know. I am always willing to accept name ideas, and for this one as well. I don't have a name for this one yet either. I am the worst at naming my designs, honestly. Sometimes I get inspiration and I know what it's going to be straight away, but that's like maybe 30% of the time. The other 70% of the time, I have no idea what to call it, and I have no idea what to call this either. Anyway, like I said, suggestions welcome. And I think for finished objects, that covers it. I don't think I have anything else finished. I've been working a lot on samples and things for the classes that I'm going to be teaching. I've literally done a bajillion swatches for my Marling Made Easy class. I went through all of my scraps and I picked out some different colors. So this is just a basic first swatch in the handout. There we go. I sat down to create this handout, and I was like, oh, it won't take me that long. There's like maybe 3 different ways to marl yarns. It'll be pretty quick. And then I sat down and I came up with 7 different ways of doing it. and I just kept thinking of new ways. I was like, okay, I have to stop somewhere. I have to like put a limit on this. So my limit was 3 strands. No more marling than 3 strands, at least in this class for this thing, but obviously you can extrapolate and do as many strands as you'd like, but the principles are the same. So there's a transitional 2 strand and then transitional with 3 strands, and you can see the differences in how that marling works. The yellow is the only color that's different between these two because I didn't have enough of the yellow that I used in this for this one, but you can see in general like how smooth the marling is in the 3 strand version versus the 2 strand version. And this one I came up with the terms for them. There is no, like, that I know of, there aren't any official terms for these, but I call this the transitional marling method. And then I had the constant strand method. Did I call it that in the end, or the did I give it a different name? I think I still called it the constant strand. So this is the 2 strand method and the 3 strand method. I'm not going to go into details because that's part of the class, but I just want to show you the swatches. And then I did a method which I have labeled here. Oh, sorry, and I got, sorry, so there's 2 versions for the constant strand with 3 for the constant method with 3 strands. So you've got the 2 strand method and then 3 strand. There's 2 versions of how to do it with 3 strands for that one. And then the last one, I've called it the whole way through, but I think I've called this one I think I actually renamed this one in the handout, but I haven't relabeled them. So then there's the 2 strand and the 3 strand version of that as well. Like I said, these are all explained in detail, and the methods for each of these are like written out line by line, and I've even gone through and created tables for each one showing you how much of each yarn you use before you change to create each of these effects. So it's like once you get the handout, once you've done the class and you've got the handout, it should be all you need to be able to work any of these methods into any project. And here's Hugo again. All right, Hugo buddy, we're gonna have to have words about this. The other thing that I worked on that I guess is technically a finished object, but again it's another swatch, and this is for that class I was telling you about earlier, the Elevate Your Knitting or Level Up Your Knitting class, where we're going to be doing like a mini version of the Changes shawl. So there again, just did a really small swatch, wanted to keep it a small size so that it would be manageable within the class time frame to hopefully knit most of this, if not all of this half of it. So this is essentially half of the shawl, and the other half would be this side being repeated with this stuff, repeated on the other side. But like I said, this is just a small little sample, so you can try out the different techniques included in the pattern, including I-cord bind-offs and I-cord as you go, and all sorts of fun little techniques going around. Picking up stitches, working like a tuck stitch, working wrap stitches, working mosaic stitches. There's all sorts of techniques in this little sample here. So like I said, a really fun class. And then the only other 2 works in progress I have on the go at the moment, one is my crochet granny stripe blanket, which I haven't worked on in such a long time, but recently picked up. And so the last time I'd worked on it, the marker here is where I was when I picked it up recently, this last week. And so I've added, from here, I've added all of this to the blanket since I picked it up. So quite a few rows have been added. I did notice earlier when I laid it out that my gauge, for my crochet gauge, was so much tighter when I first started. Like, it's super tight and it looks really neat actually. I quite like the gauge at this point. But then I look at my gauge at this end and it's so much looser. And yeah, so when you lay it out, it kind of like flares out. And I haven't done any accidental increases. I checked, I counted my clusters. I have the same number of clusters here as I do on the cast on bit. So hey ho, I'm not too fussed about it. It's just a fun scrappy blanket. I'm not a perfectionist. If you've been watching me for any length of time, you will know by now I am not a perfectionist when it comes to my knitting. Knitting is meant to be fun, not stressful. So yeah, it is what it is, and it's a scrappy project, and I think by definition scrappy projects are not meant to be perfect. So I did actually film a video clip of this laid out on the floor so you can see it more clearly and see all the colours and how it all plays together. So I will insert that clip for you now. Alright, and this is my crochet blanket so far. You can see it's narrower at the bottom here and wider at the top. That's not because I've accidentally increased. I did count my clusters at the top and have the same number that I started with. It's just because my crochet gauge has loosened significantly from when I started to now. And when I picked it up this time, I believe I was on this stripe here. I think that's where my marker is on the other side. So this is where I was. This is how much I've added in the last, I don't know, less than a week. So yeah, I finished the magic cake ball I was working with, and ready to start with some new yarns. So now I just need to make another scrappy magic cake ball for the blanket, which I will probably do at some point later today. My next work in progress that I have to show you is a pair of socks. I haven't actually knit on a pair of socks in quite a while this year. I think the last one I finished was over a month ago, and I didn't knit any socks last month, which is crazy. By last month I mean, yeah, I think, did I knit on any socks? I don't think I knit any socks while I was at Rhinebeck, so I don't think I knit on any socks in October, and I definitely only started these at the end of November. So anyway, it's been a while. So these are going to be some socks, gift socks. I'm not going to say who they're for, but in fairness, if you've been watching my vlogs and stuff, you might already know who they're for. I just don't want to say it because the person I'm knitting them for watches the podcast, although they can probably guess it's for them based on the colours. So for the cuff, I've used Patterns Croy in the Gentry Grey colourway, and I'll probably be using it again for the heels and possibly the toes. We'll see how we go. And then the legs and the rest of the main colour for the sock is West Yorkshire Spinners, and I think this might be the woodpecker, or no, not woodpecker. Do they have one called Robin? It's one of the birds lines. I don't think this is owl. I think owl was a different colour, or maybe it's owl. I can't remember, but it's one of the bird ones. And yeah, and I'm knitting these on US. What is it? I think these are US ones. Oh, sorry, 1.5s. Yeah, US 1.5, 2.5mm needles. Slightly larger than I usually would, but I'm liking how this is working up. And my usual 2 at a time. I typically use 2 at a time these days when I'm working on vanilla socks. If I'm doing pattern socks, I find it easier with a toddler around to do them concurrently, so on separate needles. It's just the way my life is right now with a toddler. It's just easier to manage that way. But with vanilla socks, I pretty much always do them 2 at a time. And yeah, they're my preferred sort of like vanilla knitting. I think the reason why I've done less sock knitting this year is because like I have a ton of socks already, and I have a bunch of socks waiting to be worn that are brand new that I've not worn yet, just because I have plenty in my sock drawer at the moment. My family pretty much have a ton of socks already, and I do have socks lined up for them for Christmas this year, although they never say no to more socks, so I do pretty much knit for them at the moment. And yeah, so I haven't felt the need to knit as many socks, and I feel like that time that I would have used to knit vanilla socks or gift socks or whatever is now, some of that time is being used for spinning as well. So spinning has kind of taken over a bunch of my free crafting time this year, which wasn't the case last year. But yeah, definitely still enjoying sock knitting. I'm just not doing as much of it, which is probably a good thing because it means I'm not going to like burn out on sock knitting. And the last work in progress I have to show you is in this little basket, and I actually just started this square today. But again, if you've been following for a while, you'll know that I started a pinwheel scrap blanket for my daughter. Now the pinwheel scrap blanket pattern is one of my own designs. It's my only sort of like mini blanket mini like scraps blanket specific project that I've ever designed. And so you just get these, you end up with these little pinwheel blocks that you end up seaming together. It makes it the perfect sort of travel project, because all you need are like 8 little scraps to do one pinwheel. Sorry, the cats are getting themselves caught up in the hanging lights on their way down the cat trees. I'm just checking they were okay. And yeah, and I've knit up 8 squares for Layla so far. And so the pattern's actually written for fingering weight, but I'm doing this with fingering held double or a DK or worsted weight to do like thicker blocks, and I cast on 20 stitches instead of what the pattern calls for, which I think is 30 stitches for fingering weight. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, I've got 8 blocks in total. And I was trying to do 1 block a month throughout this year, so I'm 4 blocks behind. I need to get 4 blocks done this month, which is probably not that hard because each triangle takes me at most 10 minutes, so it's a really quick knit. And this would be a great advent project, like, seriously. Even at the fingering weight gauge, if you didn't want to hold your fingering weight double, it would only take me about maybe 15 or 20 minutes to do a little triangle. So it's a great little advent project, and it uses less than 5 grams of yarn for each triangle. So again, a brilliant little stash buster for scraps or minis or anything like that. And a great travel project. And the seaming is really simple as well. I do it with a crochet hook and it's pretty quick. So I just started another block this morning. I'm using all the scraps from my recent sweater that I designed out of the loop mill spun yarn, the one that I still need to write the pattern for and get test knit. I've worn it so much it's actually starting to pill like crazy because I'm constantly wearing it. So I actually need to depill that before I take any pattern photos. I still need to write it up though. But anyway, yeah, so I've been working on that as well. And I think that pretty much covers it for the knitting projects that I'm working on and have been working on. I do have one other project that I finished, but I can't show you because it's a secret design that will be coming out later this month, which is really exciting. And what else? I'm trying to think what else there is to tell you guys about with regards to knitting. Like I said, I have a bunch of new designs coming up which I need to swatch for and plan out and stuff like that. Like I said, this last month has been really hectic, and I'm hoping that this month I'm taking it a bit easier in December with regards to work stuff, so I'm not being as full on with it. I'm taking a little bit more time for myself to do other things other than just working on the days that Layla's in nursery. So I'm not sure if I mentioned, but today's Tuesday, the 3rd of December. I am doing Vlogmas if you are interested in that. So the first couple of days of Vlogmas are already up, and I'm vlogging every day in the month of December. I'm probably going to go up to New Year's because that's what I've done for the last couple of years. And yeah, I hope you will join me over there on the channel for Vlogmas. The last couple of videos have been quite long, around 20-minute mark, but that's mainly because it was weekend days and days with Layla and we get up to a lot of stuff. But I imagine the weekdays when Layla's at nursery won't be as long, just because they are my work days, so I won't be filming as much stuff. It won't be as interesting. But yeah, we do have some fun things planned for this month, so I hope you will join us. In terms of other things, I guess acquisitions was the next thing we were going to talk about. And I have my advent calendars, which I've been opening up, and again, if you watch Vlogmas, you'll see those. And what else do we have? I was sent, again, I did show this in one of the Vlogmas prep videos that I did. I did a couple of vlogs before Vlogmas started, just because we were doing some pretty fun Christmassy things and I wanted to get back into the swing of vlogging. But I was sent this kit from We Are Knitters for the Midea Blanket, which is a really easy sort of beginner level pattern. And so it's knit out of the wool, which is like a bulky 100% Peruvian Highland wool. And I think it's 200 grams per ball. Yeah, 200 grams and 80 meters per ball. So it's a really chunky yarn. And it is knit on something crazy like 15mm needles or something. Mental. And yeah, so this is going to be a advent project for me, even though it's all in this like lovely ochre yellow colorway. Love it. And yeah, so you can look forward to seeing progress on that on the vlogs as well. I haven't cast it on yet, but I will be casting it on soon. You can see our Christmas tree is all up in the background there. And yeah, and other acquisitions, I had a lovely viewer of the podcast, Kim, who reached out and wanted to send me a book. And she also sent a cute little notebook for Layla, but she sent me a book on spinning, and it's a really interesting book actually. It's called Intertwined: The Art of Hand-Spun Yarn, Modern Patterns and Creative Spinning. And I think it takes the idea of creative spinning to a whole new level that I hadn't even thought about. There is some ingenious ideas in here. I'm just seeing if we can show you some examples. I mean, look at this. Look at that one. How amazing is that? I mean, I'm not sure how practical some of these yarns are going to be for like knitting with or working with afterwards, but some of these are just really interesting to think about. Like there's this one where they've actually spun in silk cocoons into the yarn. This one where they've like spun in tufts and pom-poms into the yarn itself as well, which is really interesting. Bits of ribbon and fabric to create like little bow ties. Well, this one was really cool. Twists. So you know sometimes if you're spinning and your yarn sort of kinks up on itself, like this is actually using that on purpose to create this sort of twisted effect. Shredded paper yarn. Spinning with cassette tape. So you know the stuff inside a cassette tape? Like, how crazy is that? Like I said, I can't imagine that's particularly practical. I really like this book. I thought it was a great little inspirational tool, I guess. And each of these different techniques are actually explained how to do, and how like it breaks it down into like a step-by-step guide of how to do each of these like weird and wonderful techniques. Some of them are less crazy, some are quite out there, like the cassette tape one, but all the different methods are detailed in the book, which I think is really quite cool. I have also today recorded a prize winners video, so I have announced in that video prize winners for the spin and make along, the sweater knit along that I was hosting, and also that braid of Polworth that I was doing a giveaway for in a recent spinning video. So if you entered into any of those giveaways, make sure you, or knit alongs or make alongs, then make sure you go ahead and check out that video to find out if you are a winner. In terms of what's been going on, I can't remember when was the last time I recorded. It was about a month ago. So I went to the Lay Family Yarn Retreat, which was amazing. It was so much fun. Perry's actually now left for 2 weeks. He is off on some work trips. It's actually quite crazy. He's in the US and then in Germany and then back to the US within the space of like 2 weeks. It is too much. It's a bit crazy, to be honest. It just worked out that way. So it's just the two of us, just me and Layla for the next couple of weeks until next weekend, and then yeah, like I said, Vlogmas has started, but otherwise everything's going well. Layla's doing great at nursery. If you watch the vlogs, you'll see she is such a chatterbox these days. Honestly, I knew she was talking a lot, but I don't think I fully realized like how much she was talking until I went back and was editing the vlogs. I'm like, wow, she really is talking so much now. It's crazy. And she's really taking an interest in the camera now and wants to hold the camera and wants to do some filming or take photos as well, and she's really started to show an interest in that, which is really cute. But yeah, it's been a good day. Yesterday was a good day. It's our first day, just the two of us. I mean, Perry was here in the morning, but then he left, and she's at nursery today. Everything's going well with that. We went through a bit of a separation anxiety phase last month, but thankfully she's over that now and it's all good. She's excited to go, and yeah, like I said, I don't have a lot to catch you guys up on with regards to what's been going on. I feel like I've been catching you guys up on the vlogs, so if you are interested in what's been going on and what is going on in our lives, then by all means check out the vlogs to keep up, and I will be back with you guys shortly, I guess. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to say. If you are interested in spinning, then there will be the spinning portion of this podcast going up pretty soon. I'm going to record that now, and I will be back with you guys probably with another podcast in the new year. I do plan on having like a wrap-up episode at the end of the year where I go over my knitting and spinning stats, but we will see if I get to that or not this year. Things are looking quite busy, but we will see what I manage. It might end up being the early part of next year before I get to record it, but yeah, in terms of like a proper sit down podcast, probably not going to happen now until January. Like I said, I'm vlogging every day, so I pretty much catch you guys up on everything that I'm doing. So I will see you then. Take care. Bye.